we there?
All right, yeah, we are. Hi,
Okay,
everyone.
welcome everybody. Hi. We're going to be showing a piece I've been working on for a while called Engulfed in the World. It's kind of a video performance piece that I have already recorded. I'm Maria McSweeney. I recently graduated from Limerick School of Art and Design, specialising in sculpture and combined media, and then kind of further specialising in that, doing kind of video performance and photography. Yeah, and I'm part of this collective called Similar Situation with six other members. We all kind of met in Berlin last summer or 2 summers ago in 2019, and we decided to make a collective due to that we couldn't really meet up anymore because of coronavirus and stuff. So yeah, and Annie is one of the members, and we're going to be talking about the performance and stuff after it's shown.
So why don't you talk about first how you filmed it and why we can't do it live right now?
Well, one of the reasons we probably couldn't do it live, because it's really dark outside at 8 o'clock in Ireland. That's one slight reason we probably would have to push it earlier. But the other was the actual technical setup to get the bird's eye view of recording down onto the pool was really hard to do, especially at home or when you don't have a lot of equipment. It actually ended up that my dad was on a stepladder beside the pool with a massive stick, and I had a GoPro and I had a phone. I did different kind of recordings. I had a digital phone, a really old one, and a GoPro, and we were like hovering it over, and then we had a fishing line, and we were like slowly lowering it down into the pool. So it was a very inventive setup. So to recreate that actually live, like we had to do. It took a lot of like time to set up. It took me nearly 3 or 4 hours just to set up the whole thing, and to do that live would be really difficult. Also, as well, because I wanted to have the different brands and stuff on my body, and that would be hard to project because I don't have a projector either at home. But it would be hard to get that onto the body without using some kind of editing software after. So that's another reason why it was kind of edited slightly after. And I wanted to, for some of it, I did want to put the circle around. Sorry about that. I did want to put the circle kind of around to kind of touch into the idea of security, and kind of like they're seeing into someone's private life nearly. It's like a little hole, or like it's like you're watching from above a security camera, kind of maybe even into Bruce Newman's kind of work where he used different kind of security footage. Just kind of more like you're watching from a private, or seeing a private moment or something.
Would you see it being like performed live in some setting, like where we wouldn't have to stream it obviously, but like in a physical setting, like in a gallery? And how would you want people to, like, would you want them to look through like little like holes or windows or things like that?
I think actually that reminds me of a piece in the Venice Biennale that won the Venice Biennale 2 years ago when it was on in 2019. But they had a choir. It was the Lithuanian Pavilion, and they had people watching it from above, and it was a beach scene that had a choir. Yeah. And just when you said like from above, I was like, oh yeah. I think if I had to do it live, I'd like to have the audience above me, and possibly even through like telescopes or binoculars or something. They'd have to watch it.
All right.
That kind of like disengages them with it. Kind of to do with like say if you're like the digital world, if you're on your phone, or if you're on, say here, even on the stream, you're with people but you're still disconnected. So that kind of sense of being disconnected from it and not fully there as well.
How did it come about, and where did you get all of the ideas from?
It kind of came about from my last piece, the piece I put in the exhibition, because when I started looking at, or kind of slightly attacking capitalism and the capitalist and digital world, and the kind of idea, the orange suit and stuff. I had this idea from June or July. Actually, I'm in a sculpture studio in Limerick, and they have these really nice big windows that look down onto a courtyard where you could film. And I was like, I really want to film in that courtyard, and it kind of like came about from that. And I was like, oh, what if I put a pool in here? At the time, one of my friends actually had a blow-up pool, and I really wanted to do something with that as well. So they kind of mashed together. But then with COVID, I actually moved home, but I still couldn't. Do you know when you have an idea and you're like, I really need to do this idea?
Yeah. If we go back to that, like, critique of capitalism, that's quite often in your work. And yeah, in our last stream, we talked about this quite a lot. And now you're playing with like more natural elements as well. Like you had the fire in the other video, and now you're like drowning in water. So I don't know. Do you like? I mean, you can talk about anything you want, but I'm just like kind of throwing out thoughts that came to my head from this. And then like those brand names, like global kind of multinational brand names that you have there, that's quite like strong symbolism of like being drowned by that kind of constant noise of like buy this, buy that, advertising kind of thing. So yeah, like feel free to like riff off on that.
Yeah, actually the natural things, I actually didn't notice that. It might maybe technically, because a lot of natural elements, what you call it, like the natural world destroys itself to make way for the new, I feel. Like say if a fire burns down but it makes way for the new, like say a tsunami, or like if a lot of water suddenly went onto the land or something, you would make way for the new. Maybe possibly I'm looking subconsciously at how say the like going more into like these big corporations, it's like they can never be moved or never be, touched kind of thing. They're like, yeah, we are the top dogs kind of, or something like the pandemic, like or even yeah, like floods or a lot of things that are happening with the environment around us now in our world. Like they're maybe unsettling these kind of big corporations or big companies. Like some of them might have to shut and stuff, and it's just the world fighting back maybe.
You're just kind of this floating, kind of faceless body, almost like your whole personality, your whole being is being imprinted on by all of these massive corporations that are trying to sell you different things to make you happy or feel full or whatever. It's almost like there's like a three-way kind of fight going on. Like there's like natural forces, and then there's humanity, and then there's that capitalist side of it. And it's not clear like who's fighting who. And then maybe it's like the nature is just having to attack against everything to claim like kind of its power back. I feel like that's getting quite poetic, but like that's just coming to my head now that we're talking about it as well.
A lot of people think duration, performance, like big live performances, actually arose like in the 1960s after like the fall of modernism and stuff. But it actually didn't. What I like found out more that people were actually performing way before that in like the 1920s. Like Man Ray and stuff, them kind of people, they were all performing, and it was actually when the camera was invented. Because when say suddenly the camera was invented and or video camera or normal camera, and they all wanted to record stuff, so people were doing these like body like actions in front of the camera. So it actually arose from the camera and performing in front of the camera, and not from just the fall of modernism and then just performing with your body, if that makes sense. So it actually kind of married hand in hand with the camera and recording live, and the camera was your audience. And then as it kind of went on, like performance art, it kind of got to a point where the live audience is a really big factor, but still a lot of these live audience performances were always still recorded or always still documented. And then in my thesis as well, I kind of looked at two different styles of, if you did a live performance and you documented it, how is that different from you just doing a live performance by yourself in front of the camera? And it's like, is it really that different? Like, how could you still call that live? And what type of audiences do you have with both of them? And I kind of figured out through it that the documented live performance, say if you're doing a performance in front of an audience, it has an audience that sees the live performance there, and the camera is kind of a secondary audience. But then with the one where you're just performing by yourself for the camera, the audience still technically sees it, except the camera then is the primary audience, and then the people that see it after, when you say put it online or you show them the video, they're the secondary audience. So it's just the same, this is still the same two audiences. There's still the camera and the real life people audience, but they just, one is more primary in one form and one is more secondary in the other. I think it depends what kind of performance art you do. Like if I do a video, like say there in my video there, I had one take, I did exactly same movements, I didn't retake it, so I would consider that live even if I edited it after, because it wasn't like reshooted or retaken, it was still live in that moment. When my dad was filming it, it was still a live moment. But I think you might have a different opinion about that, so I consider it still a live performance, just you're showing it at a later stage.
But in general, I feel like it's quite hard to draw these like harsh lines in between like different disciplines of art, moving image or video art, photography and performance, because all of those kind of have only been accepted as forms of art, and some of them, like sometimes people are still kind of debating whether they're art or not. So
yeah,
I feel like it's a bit like, I feel like we're almost feeding into the whole confusion by like trying to be too like purist about like what's live and what's not, and like I feel like it's unnecessary. Like right now we can't do live performances like for live audience in a physical space. Like the only way we can do anything live is through like streaming live, like we're doing now, and there's already like an intermediate thing between the audience and us. So like I feel like in this setting it makes even less difference whether the actual the act of performing is happening right now or whether it happened earlier, you know, because we're not sharing a physical space with our audience anyway.
Yeah, like say if you did a live stream anyway, like say if I was doing a live stream right now of doing a performance, it's still just performing for a camera. It's exactly the same thing, except it's just showing later. Yes. Yeah, because I think I see performance as you're just using your body as the material. Instead of using, like actual physical objects. And for me, I started doing it because if I ever made anything, I felt really disconnected from it. But if you use your own body, you're with, like in the art piece, you're part of the art piece. And I think I really like that more than it's like me and the art piece. Instead, it's like you combine it and you're collided and you're one thing. And it's more like your body and your mind and how you chose to use it at that particular time, probably where it's more different from the world around you. Like you probably, if you're doing performance art, if you're using your body, if you're just doing what everyone else does normally, like say if you walk down the street and you're like, I did a performance, but no one will know you did one. So normally when you do performance art, you're normally going against normal everyday life, I feel. And I feel like that's where people don't really get it, but that's what performance art is, if that makes sense. I think that's how I see it anyway. Like most performances, say if you did it on the street or you did it somewhere, it's normally strange or different because they want you to, because everyone has a body and everyone uses it in a space, they want you to see a space differently or see a concept differently, so you can think about it more. So say if someone walked backwards down the street, you'd be like, oh, why are they doing that? Kind of thing, instead of forwards, and then you might think about other things. I think that's more what performance art's about.
And I think the first kind of really notable performance artists were like often commenting on societal issues and like things like that, just because of the kind of the power that your physical presence in a space can make. And when you act against like social norms, it can be like so much more powerful and poignant, and also like really uncomfortable for the audience because you're kind of breaking norms in a way that they're not expecting to. And I feel like people fear that a lot, and it kind of brings a lot of like not necessarily negative, but some negative emotions on the surface. So I feel like that's where the power of performance art really is. I don't know, like for me, like that's not necessarily why I'm doing performance, because like my background to kind of expressing things through my body is in like more formal dance training. So that's like that's kind of from almost completely like the other side of like performance, because it's more of like that's a social convention, right? Like you're not supposed to like do all this in your in the like supermarket, but when you do it on stage, then that's normal, right? So so dance is like it's like a socially acceptable form of not acting like the norms dictate. I feel like I'm just rambling. I mean, my interest in performance art is it comes from like my like own like personal experience of like how I can feel things and express things through movement. But I feel like for me, like the biggest challenge in that is how to like not leave it to the point where I'm just making a choreography, but make it like kind of make it transcend just dancing or just art and just kind of creating something new.
Performance, I feel like, happened a lot after big radical change, like in my same kind of thing with coronavirus, you know, where like, oh, big changes are going to happen, and performance art and video art and stuff like arose from like changes in World War II, like the Situationists, all that stuff kind of arose when the world was changed. And then I think people kind of realized, and they were like, oh, like they kind of started making more kind of performance art then to kind of combat like or talk about the change, and because there's so much stuff changing around them. I feel like performance art kind of arises from that because it's very like linked with kind of activism and social commentary and that kind of thing. So we might see a big rush in performance art maybe.
Yeah,
due to
yeah.
Corona,
I wouldn't
possibly.
be surprised. And maybe those art forms as well, like, because you're so like involved in a performance because you're in it with your whole being, then maybe that kind of also gives the artist a space to kind of feel and I don't know, like process some stuff in a different way than other ways of creating art.